Who posted an Instagram story today? Raise your hand. Come on, don't be afraid. Oh, yes, thank you. What story deserved to be published on your Instagram? What was the trigger? Let me tell you a story that might be hard to hear now. Imagine you are 80 years old and all your Instagram stories have disappeared. And you are with your grandkids and you will love to tell stories. You realize, though, that you don't have any to tell. You have no stories to tell because you probably never struggled with anything in your life. You decided to have this perfect life with no failures. Because failures were bad to you. Failures made you feel down. Let's have a look at this picture now. What are common features between these two characters? Bridget Jones, she struggled with her love life. And Forrest, well, who would have bet on this man? They all have imperfections they struggled with. They are not perfect. And that's why we like them, because they are just as flawed as we are. Have you ever noticed that most stories feature an imperfect character, someone with failures, and then a transformation happens? Yeah, because this is what makes a story good. In my design workshops, I often find two types of people. You have the super outgoing one, they always have something to say, and you have the others, more reluctant to participate, less confident. But creativity requires self-confidence because you need to trust in your ideas. So I started to wonder, what stopped them? Are there the people who are born talented and the others who are not? Or could I unlock the potential in the unmotivated ones? One day, I discovered a story about a fish called the Cichlid Fish. He lives in Lake Tanganyika in Africa, and his story gave me hope. So let me share it with you. In Lake Tanganyika in Africa, you find two types of males. You get Mr. Blue, Mr. Sexy Fish. He's the one on the bottom of the photo. He's Mr. Perfect. He's super aggressive, he's a very good dancer, and guess what? He attracts all the females. And you get Mr. Gray, Mr. Lucky One. He's dual gray, he just looks like females. And you know what? He is sexually infertile. Now, I know what you are thinking. You may be all thinking, poor Mr. Gray. But because Mr. Sexy Fish is so vibrant, he becomes super visible to the birds and more likely to be their dinner. And so he disappears off the lake. Suddenly, there's this whole vacant territory for Mr. Gray, who is like, hoo-hoo, there's no more sexy fish around. Yeah. And you know what happens? His body color changes from deer gray to flashy blue, and a prominent black stripe appears across his face. He's just like Rambo. He gets all the physical aspects of Mr. Blue, but not only. He also gets the physiological ones. He becomes sexually fertile. It's a signal to the females that he's a top fish now. A transformation happened. So, how could this story be inspiring to us? 4 major points. First, what begins as an advantage can become quickly a disadvantage in another situation. Look, the sexiness of Mr. Blue has become a disadvantage when the birds are around. So, if a perfection can become an imperfection, then that means that maybe the notion of perfection doesn't exist. Secondly, your sense of self is influenced by social interactions. Third, as soon as your sense of self changes, physiological transformation happens. Remember, Mr. Durgray becomes sexually fertile. The last one, and my favorite one. The notion of being born a winner as opposed to being born a failure is not true. As we saw with the example of fish, failures can become beautiful because a journey of transformation can start after each failure. But in order to set off this journey of transformation, you first need to embrace your failures. And at the very beginning, it might be somehow difficult for us to embrace our failures because of this beautiful, perfect, not perfect engine that nature has provided us with. And it's the brain. Let me explain. A few weeks ago, I was at a friend party, and my friend, she came out with that game. This game was fantastic, so mesmerizing that everyone just stopped drinking and gathered around to watch it. You have 2 players, and the goal is to move all your pucks into the opponent's side. And a funny situation happened. One of the players, who had never played before, started to win one game, and then another one, and then another one, and he became unbeatable. This phenomenon is what neuroscientist Ian Robertson calls the winner effect. But the thing is, there is the exact same but opposite phenomenon. It's the failure effect. Did it happen to you before, this situation when you had one single failure and then it's a cascade of failures? You fail again and again trying to achieve the same goal and you just ruin everything. The perfect example is when you are dieting. All right, girls? And that day happens. You fail. You yield to temptation. You have a pizza. Convinced that you ruined your goal, straight after you order an ice cream. This is very serious, actually. Studies find that people who are on a diet and have failed once ate 50% more cookies afterward than someone who is not on a diet. This is because of the failure effect happening in your brain. And this effect is partly due to a chemical that you all know, I'm pretty sure, and it's called testosterone. It's 1994, and we are at the Football World Cup final between Italy and Brazil. And everyone is watching Roberto Baggio, the Italian player who has to score the winning penalty goal to win the game and makes history. Boom. Poor Italians. Scientists took saliva samples of Brazilian fans and Italian fans just before the kick and after the kick. They aimed to measure the level of testosterone. And look what they found. Just after the kicks, the level of testosterone has clearly increased in the Brazilian fans. And in the Italian fans, it dropped dramatically. See? In red. This is what happens to you every time you fail once. Chemicals are released, making their mark in your brain. But the thing is, this is not the end of the game. Next time you are confronted to a similar situation, you will be more likely to reproduce the same failure again because of these chemical changes from the past. Once you become aware of this imperfect engine that we have here, you can learn to switch it off sometime to allow you to set off your journey of transformation. But sometimes the journey of transformation is itself the unique reward, no matter the results of this journey. Let me tell you my story. 2008, I was a biology student, completely obsessed with becoming a medical researcher. One day, I felt a very important final exam. I realized I could never get this target position as a researcher. I felt like a failure. 2012, my university was organizing conferences about the possible jobs in biology. Presentations after presentations, I was truly bored, until suddenly this small woman came on the stage. She was a little bit nervous, probably not used to speaking at a scientific university. She did not present a specific job. She presented a field, a philosophy of thinking, a way of seeing life called design thinking. And design thinking is all about experimentations. And it's not very far from what a researcher does after all. She explained that they were opening this new program in this design/engineering/business school. And it's funny because business never crossed my mind before. For me, business was just about suits, spreadsheets, handshakes. But this day totally changed my life. I had no idea for which job I was signing up for, but I was signing up for a new journey. I was changing my past failures into something beautiful. 2015, I joined the wonderful design studio team at IBM. And outside of work, I met designers and biologists who wanted to fuse design and biology. We started this adventure called CoLab Open Science School, a non-profit organization hosting design and biology workshops all around the world at top research universities. This allowed me to pursue my passion for biology in a very unexpected way. People couldn't tell if they were in a biology lab or in a design workshop. I turned my failure into something beautiful. And now, my day job is creativity, and my hobby is biology. Failures are beautiful because they ignite transformation. And it's specifically during that transformation that we write our stories. I'm truly convinced that the deeper your failure is, the more fantastic your transformation be. Now, I want to tell you a secret, so you can learn and train yourself to overcome your fear of failing and take the transformational journey for yourself. Every night, when you go to bed, close your eyes and think of something, a risk, even the smallest one, that you didn't take today because you were afraid of failing. I'm asking you to take that risk the next day. I promise this will lead you to a life full of imperfections, but also great successes. Now, again, you are 80 years old again. All your Instagram stories have disappeared again. You are with your grandkids. This time, though, you have many stories to tell. And you are all laughing about your past failures. Thank you.